Ignoring your emotions only delays the inevitable. It's time to face the truth before it breaks you. This emotional turmoil didn't come from nowhere. It's the result of years of ignoring your inner truth. Your heart has been trying to tell you something, but you didn't listen, and now it's speaking through your breakdown. You've been setting up the foundation for this meltdown for a while now. It's the consequence of emotional avoidance. It's not the world that's falling apart. It's the way you've been managing your inner world. Every emotional storm you face is the result of something you've been avoiding. It's time to stop running from yourself. You can't avoid your emotions and expect everything to be fine. The cracks will eventually show. The meltdown is your reflection, an emotional response to the neglect you've shown yourself. You can't keep suppressing your feelings and expect them to stay calm. Eventually, they'll burst forth, and that's what you're seeing now. You've been avoiding your emotional needs, and now the chaos is the price you pay for that avoidance. The meltdown you're experiencing is the product of emotional mismanagement. It's time to take accountability. You've been suppressing your emotions, and now they're fighting for their right to be seen. Your emotions are powerful, and when ignored, they can create the very chaos you now find yourself in. Don't be shocked by the storm. It's the result of years of not taking care of the emotional seeds you've planted. Your meltdown is the loud cry of all the unspoken words you've been carrying around for too long. Ignoring your emotions doesn't make them go away. It only makes them louder when they finally break through. You built this emotional mess by constantly pushing your feelings aside. Now it's time to clean up the wreckage. The chaos you're feeling now is a direct result of everything you tried to avoid, every truth you chose not to see. You thought you could outrun your emotions, but now they've caught up with you in the most unexpected ways. The breakdown you're experiencing is the culmination of everything you've been refusing to face. Every time you neglected your heart's needs, you laid the groundwork for this emotional eruption. This meltdown is not an accident. It's the result of constant emotional suppression and neglect. The pain you're feeling now is a reflection of everything you've been unwilling to let go of. You can't keep running from your feelings and expect them not to catch up with you. They always do. This emotional outburst is the aftermath of every time you ignored your own needs and desires. Your heart has been screaming for attention, and now it's forcing you to listen through the storm. What you're experiencing is the emotional hangover from all the times you tried to suppress your truth. The destruction around you isn't random. It's the result of all the feelings you buried beneath the surface. You built the pressure over time, and now it's finally erupted into the meltdown you can't ignore. Your emotions don't just disappear when you push them aside, they grow stronger, waiting for their moment to break through. This meltdown is a reflection of your inner turmoil. Don't act surprised. You've been carrying it for so long. The chaos around you is nothing more than the reflection of the emotional chaos within you. You've been avoiding the storm for so long that now you're caught in the middle of it, unable to escape. Every time you dismissed your emotions, you planted a seed for this explosion. Now it's time to harvest the consequences. You're not a victim of this meltdown. You're the creator of it, through every moment of neglecting your inner world. What you're feeling now is a consequence of the emotional walls you built, keeping your truth locked away. This is what happens when you don't listen to your heart. It finds another way to make its voice heard, even if it's through a meltdown. The chaos inside you is the result of years of emotional repression. It was bound to spill out eventually. The emotional eruption you're going through is not a surprise. It's the natural result of suppressing your feelings. You've been ignoring your own needs, and now they're demanding attention in the loudest way possible. This meltdown didn't come out of nowhere. It's the consequence of a lifetime of ignoring your emotional truth. You've been ignoring the signs for far too long, and now you're paying the price for that emotional neglect. You can't keep running from your emotions without eventually facing the fallout. That's what this meltdown is, your emotional reckoning. The breakdown you're experiencing is the result of every time you chose to avoid the truth rather than confront it. Every time you dismissed your feelings, you made the storm inside you stronger. Now it's here, and it's impossible to ignore. The storm inside you is a reflection of how you've been treating your own emotions. Stop blaming the world for your inner chaos. You can't keep ignoring your feelings and then act surprised when they catch up with you. It's time to face what's been brewing. This meltdown didn't come out of nowhere. It's the result of years of neglect, anger, and unspoken truths. When you refuse to acknowledge the pressure building up, it's only a matter of time before it bursts. You've been walking around with the weight of your unprocessed emotions, and now you're shocked it's all collapsing. The signs were there, but you chose to ignore them. Now you're living the consequences of your silence. If you don't address the things that drain your energy, expect them to come back and disrupt your peace. This isn't a surprise. It's the fallout from every time you let your feelings slide instead of confronting them. You've been pushing your emotions under the rug, but the pile is now too high to ignore. What you're feeling now is the sum of all the times you didn't listen to your heart. It's time to listen, even if it hurts. You can't keep building walls around your emotions and expect them to stay contained forever. The inner chaos you're experiencing didn't happen overnight. It's the consequence of your ongoing emotional neglect. Your meltdown isn't random. It's the echo of everything you've been avoiding for too long. You can't expect peace when you've been feeding your soul with unresolved tension and unmet needs. Your heart is screaming for attention, but you keep silencing it. Now it's exploding in ways you didn't anticipate. When you act surprised by the emotional storms, you forget that you were the one who didn't prepare for the rain. The truth you've been avoiding has a way of catching up with you in the most unexpected ways. Your emotions don't just disappear when ignored. They come back louder, demanding to be seen and heard. This meltdown didn't come from nowhere. It was built from 1,000 small moments of neglect. You've been running from your truth for so long, it's no wonder it's now showing up in full force. You can only suppress your emotions for so long before they break free and take control. The tension you feel now is a direct result of every time you ignored what your heart needed. You are the one who's been ignoring the cracks in your foundation. Now you're dealing with the collapse. When you push your feelings down, they don't disappear. They simply wait for the right moment to resurface. It's easy to blame others, but this meltdown is your creation, born from every unresolved thought and emotion. You can't run from your feelings forever. Eventually, they'll catch up and demand attention. The emotional eruption you're experiencing is the aftermath of your refusal to face the truth. You were warned, but you didn't listen. Now you're left dealing with the mess you created. This emotional chaos is your doing. It's the reflection of all the emotions you've been avoiding. You can't ignore the storm within and expect everything to be calm on the outside. Eventually, it catches up. What you're experiencing right now is the price you pay for all the times you denied your inner self. The meltdown isn't something that just happens. It's the result of everything you've been unwilling to face. Your emotional breakdown is a consequence, not a random event. It's the result of years of suppression. Ignoring the signs only makes the storm stronger. Now you're caught in the eye of it. This isn't about external circumstances. It's about the way you've been treating your own heart and mind. When you bury your emotions, they don't die. They wait for the moment when you least expect them to resurface. You built the pressure, and now you're surprised it exploded. It's time to face the truth of your emotional state. The emotional wreckage you're dealing with today is the byproduct of every time you chose denial over self-awareness. You keep feeding your fears and doubts, and now you're reaping the consequences of neglecting your inner peace. It wasn't a surprise, was it? You knew the storm was coming, but you didn't make the changes necessary to prevent it. The meltdown you're experiencing is a mirror of everything you've ignored for far too long. You can only sweep your emotions under the rug for so long before they begin to pile up and trip you. The pressure you're feeling now is the direct result of emotional suppression. You're feeling it because you didn't release it sooner. Your emotions have been calling for attention, but you kept muting them. Now they're loud, impossible to ignore. If you continue to ignore your heart's whispers, eventually it will start screaming, and that's when the breakdown happens. The meltdown you're facing is the culmination of your emotional neglect. Stop acting surprised